All right, so by far, the question that caused the most difficulty on the quiz was number 3. White Sox, kill the lights, please. So I want to go over number 3 before we go any further, and then we will get started on today's lesson. We have a series of short lessons this week. Each day will be incremental increase in understanding, and I would say, in all honesty, that this is a huge week. Nothing that we're going to do is that particularly hard or difficult, but it's tested on the Regents exam a lot. So to me, that's uplifting because it's not overly hard. It really relates to what we've been doing over the last, or between the beginning of the year in parabolas and then also what we've been doing with this vertex form and horizontal and vertical shift and making things skinnier and wider and flipping them with the negative. So if you understand all of that stuff, you're going to find this week to be very, very easy. And one other last announcement, we made this perfectly clear. You must show, work, or explain on every single one of these quizzes all year long. From now until the end, you're getting one a week, and I'll just keep giving them to you. So as soon as you're done with them and you want to hand them in, you can give them to me, but they're not due until Friday. And then this Friday, you'll get another one, and so on and so forth. They'll always be due on the last day of the week, and near the end of the month, the last day of the week will be a Thursday. And then you'll get it on a Tuesday. So, all right, if Lila completes the square for f of x is x squared plus 4x plus 9 in order to find the minimum. Now look, first off, it says complete the square, and virtually every single person tapped into that and knew to complete the square here. And we talked the other day about how this only, I'm not worried about B. They want to know what's the value of A, so I don't care about B. So everybody knew to kind of half and square this. And that looked really, really good. It was all over your papers. And then you put as the answer positive 2. But if you look at the format they're giving here, it wants it to say x minus a squared, and there's the rub. Your answer says x plus 2. They want the form x minus. So to adjust this to the form x minus, it's x minus negative 2 squared. Because when I write it like this, wouldn't I circle agregar, make it x plus 2 because minus the negative? Okay? So the answer should be negative 2 and not positive 2. You study it tonight, look it over before the quiz again tomorrow. There's no way you missed that question. And that probably stopped a dozen to 15 of you from getting 100 on the quiz. Okay? All right. And now, without any further ado, no, I do not want to do this. If I did that, my computer would melt down. Okay, so, look, these quadratic equations are super huge in terms of importance. And, what? Huh? It's, oh, I'm not on the right one? It's number 20, not 21? All right, that's what tomorrow's will look like. But today's had a question similar to that, I believe. All right, let me go to number 20. Oh, got to put my glasses on. I look like Donald Trump?
Sure.
I wouldn't mind having Donald Trump's money.
I thought it was a hair. That was
Oh, nice. Do you want to know how conditioned you get as a husband?
What?
Do you want to know how conditioned you get as a husband in terms of what you think of before you actually say it?
Sure.
One of the thoughts that hit my head, have you ever seen Donald Trump's wife?
No.
She's very pretty. And what I said to myself was, wouldn't mind having Donald Trump's wife. But then I said, oh, no, God, no, if I said that, I'm a dead man. So I wouldn't dare say such a thing. So I didn't say what I just said I wouldn't dare just say.
On recording.
Make sense? Yes, on recording. So, all right. Look, number 1, the first thing, what do you always do before you cross the road? So what do you always do before you factor? Look for the common, both ways. Look for the common factor. 2 times n squared plus 4n minus 21 equals 0. This would be n plus 7 times n minus 3 equals 0. Listen Listen very carefully. There are a couple of you who are really not doing the factoring right. And I'm telling you now, your math career is dead in the water. And I don't mean it to sound mean, I'm just giving you reality. Look, your classmates are excellent at factoring. Don't say, oh, well, of course you can do it, Mr. Lindquist, you're a math teacher, you should be able to factor. It's your classmates that can factor this. They look at n squared plus 4n minus 21 and they think it's easy. If you look at that and you don't think it's easy, you have a problem. And the problem is not going to just hurt you this year. It's going to hurt you next year and the year after and continually down the line. This needs to be automatic on your part. And if for some reason you still don't understand how to do this, the reason is laziness. You need to get into extra help and get this down pat now. Could you imagine if at the end of the year you got a 63 or a 64 on the Regents exam and you missed, say, 3 or 4 questions that were factoring related and all you needed to get was 1 or 2 points on those questions? Because there's going to be, if I had to guess, somewhere in the neighborhood between 8 and 12 points on your Regents that are based on factoring. And if you're able to get them right, it's like putting points in the bag and guaranteeing you're going to pass. If not, then you really do risk failure. So you need to get it down pat. And if you say, oh, I'll get it in June, I'll study it then. Think of all the points you lose between now and June. Makes no sense to me. Maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy in the middle. Maybe it's the guy on the right. That can't be. I'll eliminate that. Minus 7. N equals negative 7 plus 3. N equals 3. Do I cross out the negative 7? No. Why not? It's context, right? Everything is context. Is it time? Is it distance? Is it something that could never be negative? We have the very famous one that was on your quiz that we've done at least 3 or 4 times this year about going through the traffic light with the cars in the domain, right? Could you ever have a negative car going through a domain, or through a traffic light? Could you ever have a fraction of, well, I guess you could. They have those little stoplight cameras to bust you if you go halfway through the zone. Okay, next, on your calculator, graph y equals 2x to the third and y equals the square root of x minus 4.
What are we trying to solve?
When you graph y equals 2x cubed, do you notice that we talked the other day about how this is the graph of y equals x cubed? If I do y equals 2x cubed, it's the same graph, but like the parabola got skinnier when you put a number in front greater than 1, a coefficient greater than 1, so too does the x cubed. And the reason is simple, because you take every value here and you double it, so you bring it up. You double it, so you bring it up. So it makes it get bigger faster. And last but not least, the square root of x normally looks like this, but the square root of x minus 4, that would be vertical shift because it's not under the radical, that would look like this. Okay? And I'm sure if you put it into your calculator, it looks like that. Did you, when you put it in a calculator, were you very careful to make sure the minus 4 was outside the radical? See, the problem is if you put it inside the radical, if you do this, then the graph would look like this. Hit the little arrow to the right. Technology these days.
Oh.
And then it slides right over, okay?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we found this mistake because obviously it's something very simple, but if you don't know to look for it, you could screw that up.
Got it.
Okay? Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. And basically, number 2 is kind of what we're going to continue to talk about today. We're just going to talk about the effects of numbers, where they are on the graph. Okay, everybody on your calculator, graph these 3 right here. F of x equals x, g of x equals x plus 5, and g of whatever, h of x equals x minus 6.
Oh, minus 6, oops.
Okay, now when you graph those, what does now look, first off, what's the parent function in these 3? y equals x, okay, or f of x equals x. Now, what does g of x do to the parent function? Bless you.
It adds 5.
It's vertical shift, agree? Every single point. We have a way of looking at this and saying, look, if this is y equals x, then this is y equals x plus 5. And we talk about how the y-intercept has a vertical shift of 5. But isn't it true that every point has a vertical shift of 5? Okay? So that's a vertical shift 5 up. What would the next one have?
6.
Vertical shift 6 down. Good. Without doing the graphs on letter B, first off, what's the parent function? What does the graph of y equals, and it's not just x squared, it's y equals x squared, or f of x is x squared. What does the graph of that look like? What's it called? Parabola. No, exponential is very different. Too long in Florida for you. There's the parabola. Now, what would g of x equals x squared plus 3 do to that parabola? It moves everything up 3. What does h of x equals x squared minus 7 do? Everything down 7. Good. Now I want to get to your calculator and remind you about absolute value functions. Absolute value functions, guys, always make a v. Quadratics make a u. Absolute values make a v. Now go to y equals, and I just want to remind you of this because it's been a while. Once you get to y equals, go math, number, and then the very first one says abs. What do you suppose abs stands for? Six-pack, baby, right? Yeah. Absolute value. So put the x in there, graph it. And now, unlike before, this time we're going to include the plus 3 in the absolute value symbol and the minus 4 in the absolute value symbol. Graph those two. Go ahead. Graph both of those on your calculator. See what you come up with. But remember, for absolute value, math number, and the first choice will be absolute value. Make sure those numbers are inside the packages. Inside the absolute value symbol. Okay. Now, what is the effect in g of x equals absolute x plus 3 inside the absolute value symbol? What does it do? What would that be? A spasm? Do we need to call 911? We have a neurological disorder? A thingy.
No, a V.
What? This is not vertical shift. What is it? Horizontal shift. Do we move 3 to the right? No, we move 3 to the... It's reversed, just like on that x minus a question we talked about before. What about h of x? Horizontal or vertical? Bless you. Horizontal, move 4 to the right. How do you know that this is horizontal shift and not vertical shift? It's inside the grouping symbol. Okay. Yeah, who has a question? Yes. Well, this gives opposite direction. So this means you're going to go 4 to the right, even though it says negative. And this means you're going to go 3 to the left, even though it says positive. Okay? So that's your sense of opposite. Now, here's some graphs. Let's just take a look at what's happening here. Now, the first thing they ask you to identify is the parent function. What's the parent function in this graph? Everybody? Y equals x squared. Good. What's the shape called again? Parabola. Good. What's happening to this parabola?
It got shifted.
Shifted which way?
To the right.
To the right. And how many places? 4. So y equals what? What is that function going to be?
X squared minus 4.
No, it is not x squared minus 4 because
Dang it.
that's vertical shift. It's x minus 4 squared.
That was close.
Right? If the 4 is inside grouping symbols, it is horizontal shift. If it is not, it's not horizontal shift, what is it? Vertical shift. Okay, let's try letter B, absolute value this time. Parent function we know is y equals absolute value of x. What would be the function based on this translating horizontal vertical shift of numbers? Okay, who wants to give me the answer? Let's start with the hard part. Y equals
X minus 2.
absolute, right? X minus 2, good.
Minus 3.
Minus 3 is right. This means, since it's inside the grouping symbols, move 2, hold it, it's
no.
x plus 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have to reverse it, right? That means move 2 to the left, there I am. And then this guy is vertical shift, that means move down 3. Are we good? Okay. Now, take a look at this function. What kind of function is this? Is this a parabola?
No.
Is it absolute value?
No.
What's this function? We showed you pictures of these the other day and said you have to recognize them.
It is
This is square root.
Square root.
So now I have a question. Do I have vertical or horizontal shift?
Vertical.
Vertical only, right? Okay, so I'm not going to put inside the radical. So I know it's just going to be square root of x. Okay, and now what is my vertical shift? 5. And is it up or down?
Up.
So I put positive 5. Remember, vertical shift is the same. We don't reverse vertical shift. Okay. Now, the parent function is f of x. What's g of x?
Vertical.
G of x equals, first off, what's the general parent function?
X.
Eh,
Absolute value.
absolute value. Good. Absolute value of x, because you said it's just vertical shift. And then, how many am I going up? Yeah, I don't even think it goes up all of 3. I think it goes up like 2.5-ish or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just call it 2.5. And then what about h of x? Do I have any horizontal shift in here?
No.
No, so I could just go absolute x, and then what am I going to do?
You're gonna go down 4.
Down 4, so minus 4. Good. Right, pretty easy? All right, folks. The next one was the cube root of x, and that was the last one we needed to do for today. Hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta. Arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao.